Just like that, a rivalry is born.
There goes Davis! Oh my God! Davis is going running all the way back! Auburn's going to win the football game!
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of War Eagle Weekly. How are we doing tonight, Josh?
Doing pretty good, man. Just had to hop off of the college football game because I've been playing the absolute dog piss out of it to do this episode. So, I mean, let's get going.
Yep. You and me both, man. We have been playing the crap out of that game. We both got the pre-order so we could play early access and just have been killing it.
Worth it.
And I am exhausted because of it. Staying up way too late. I'm not 20 anymore. But starting off tonight, we have something that is going to get every single fan in Alabama upset.
Fired up.
Get them going. And it doesn't, and I'm not talking about just your Auburn fans. I'm talking about your Alabama fans, your Auburn fans. And you know what? You're probably going to piss off a lot of other SEC fans in general with what is going on. Today is Thursday. We got to watch Auburn and Hugh Freeze and all of their players that they brought to SEC Media Days. We got to watch them on the SEC Network, and everything was going great. I was feeling really good about what was said. A lot of positivity coming out of these, meetings. A lot of positivity. Last week's episode, I kind of defended Texas and Oklahoma. I didn't think that the SEC was catering to them. I thought, it's just another thing. The whole rivalry thing is just getting blown out of proportion. We got a little upset
today
with
happened.
Will Backus or Buckus or whatever his name is, the name in Red Rivalry #1. Well, apparently Will Backus actually might have something, according to Sam Acho. We're just going to dive right into it. Cole Kublik and Sam Acho, along with now his name escapes me. Yeah, Randall Cobb from Kentucky on SEC Now, discussing the two rivalries, the Red River Rival and the Iron Bowl. Kublik first, and this is what he had to say, Josh.
That everyone looks forward to for the entire year. It is
I'm going to start that over. I don't know why it started it. There we go.
One thing that everyone looks forward to for the entire year. It is a competitive game that takes place on each other's campus, which I want to see. I don't want a rivalry split down the middle. I don't want a rivalry fair. And if you need trinkets and you need fairs and you need rides and foods to make your football game great, that is not a football game for me that I'm going to place at the top of my all-time rivalry list. Those are just a couple of things that come to the top of my mind when I think about Alabama and Auburn and what it means and what it is.
He said, "Did I stutter?"
That was beautiful.
Did I stutter? I don't think Cole Kublik stuttered there. I thought there is no way this is going any further. And I'm not going to play the entire comments from Sam Acho, but this is sort of the tail end of his comments here, where he is running his mouth a little too much. Here we go, Josh.
Just sold me. And that's the thing. I don't want to go to an Iron Bowl. I want to go now. You just sold me. And that's the thing. I don't want to go to an Iron Boll. No offense to Iron Bowl. You've been right. It's cool. It's nice if you know what I mean. But it's different, right? Randall Cobb went to Kentucky, and Kentucky all-time great legend. He wants to go to the Red River Rivalry. Why? Because it's a game, but there's so much more than the game. It's so much more. Like if I grew up in Birmingham, right, Cole? You live in that Alabama area. Of course, it's everything to you in that small little area of where you live. But if you are a national,
everything is bigger in Texas.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
I guess that's what I'm hearing right now.
I didn't have to add the small little, but I think those are my points. That's my time.
You said Sam, what's your Twitter handle?
At the Sam Acho. Follow me.
That is a terrible
and then his and then him begging people to follow him after those comments is
Hey,
asinine
you got
to
to
me.
plug.
I
You
mean,
got to plug.
okay, yeah, okay, cool, good for you. But at the same time, dude, I got so fired up with that. I sat there, I busted out the phone and started recording that, sent it to you, and I believe what I heard. I don't want to go to an Iron Bowl. It's total trash, is what I heard. In your small little area, yeah, it's maybe this big thing, but not nationally. Well, screw you, man. I can tell you this. Freaking, oh my God. Cole Kubelik kept his cool, man. That look on his face there at the end of that video, where if looks could kill, that's the definition of what it would be. Because but man, he kept it together so much better than what I would have done. I don't know if I would have been able to last the entire time. This dude,
No.
we'll look up the whole video, okay? And sorry, Josh, I'm going to give you a chance to talk, but I got to get this off my chest. Go look at the whole video. This dude is talking about how on a national stage nobody's paying attention to the Iron Bowl, and everyone's talking about the Red River Rivalry. And then he goes and freaking contradicts himself by saying he's like, to the average, American fan, you're Texan and you're Oklahoman, and the Red River Rivalry just means more. It's just bigger, and I'm just like, well, yeah, of course it does to the Texans and the freaking Oklahoma Sooner fans, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about on the national stage. Okay, yeah, the Red River Rivalry gets so much attention because do you know how many other rivalry games are going on that week, Josh? Do you know? Can you take a guess? None. And so that is literally the only thing that's going on. Our conversation that we had last week about the Red River Rivalry being ranked number 1 over the Iron Bowl in the SEC rivalries, man, we kept it civil. We didn't quite understand where he was coming from on this, but we recognize the fact that this was a storied rivalry. Well, this dude has gone and made me just say, okay, all right, Texas, you think you're going to come into this conference, you're going to own this conference, you're going to be this big baddie, you're going to start pushing people around, and nobody else matters except for what has to do with you. Well, guess what? This is the SEC, baby. Every team outside of Vandy and probably Missouri, let's just be honest, every single team matters, not just your freaking hook 'em horns, okay? This is just the most asinine thing that any fan could come out and say, okay? Yes, you go ahead and think that the Red River Rivalry is better, okay? Sure, that's fine, okay? Georgia fans and Florida fans might think sometimes that the cocktail party is bigger than any other rivalry, and it's the best rivalry out there. But you know what they're not going out there and saying? Oh, I have no interest in some puny little Alabama rivalry with Auburn in the tiny state of Alabama. Okay, I think we're starting to see already. It hasn't even been a month since Texas and Oklahoma have been in the conference, and
They think they own it.
already thinking that they're owning it. Okay, well, guess what? You just pissed off 2 fans because I know you're about to unleash on them as well, and you also pissed off the entire state of Alabama. Okay, that's the last thing you want. Yeah, Texas's thing is don't mess with Texas. Well, guess what, Texas? You're about to find out you don't mess with Alabama.
No, you just don't. I'm not going to go on a rant like that. That was very heated. Good for you. But were Cole's comments before or after what Sam Acho says?
They were before.
Okay, so if he probably, held back and let Sam Acho go first, he probably would have had more to say. Maybe what Cole said.
Okay, so real quick, he did have another comment, and I forgot to add the video. He did have another comment that I recorded where he asked to clarify. He's like saying, you don't want to go to the Iron Bowl. Is that what you're saying? And he was like, no, I have no interest in it. It's not, it's not this thing. And Cole interrupted me. He's like, well, me, a fan, I want to go to the Red River Rivalry. I want to go see Michigan and Ohio State play. I want to go see the Iron Bowl. I want to see the largest cocktail party in the world. As a fan, I want to go see these things because I'm a true fan. And he goes, so he does defend it, and he goes, but man, he kept his calm the whole time. He looked like he was pissed off and was about to just stand up and deck the guy. Okay. But he on the outside and in his voice, man, he kept it so cool. He was
he definitely
was
did.
like, I'm not showing up on First Take. This is not First Take. This is SEC Now. Well, this isn't SEC Now.
Well,
this is the War Eagle Weekly Podcast. And
here's my first take. Here's my first take. In 2023, during the Red River Rivalry Week, the biggest game on TV, 2 top 15 opponents, they averaged 7.87 million viewers. That wasn't even in the top 5 of most viewed college football games of the year. Now, Michigan and Ohio State, they were at 19 million, I think. They had a lot of viewers.
That was ridiculous. They had a lot last year.
Number 2 was the Iron Bowl at 9.09 million viewers. So the Texas and Oklahoma fans didn't even want to watch the 2 top 15 teams play more than the Auburn fans wanted to watch their, what were they, 5-4 or 5-5 at the time team play the number 3 or whatever team Alabama was at the time. That game meant nothing. That Oklahoma-Texas game meant something or other, but the Iron Bowl didn't mean anything, and still more fans, probably a lot more fans than just Auburn Alabama fans, tuned into that damn game because everybody and their mamas wants to watch the Iron Bowl.
And not just Auburn Alabama fans. That is a national audience, sir.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. How many people live in Texas? That's 90% of your viewers.
Cameron, listen, this is also another crazy fact I found on the Red River Rivalry.
Please,
last year's viewership was the highest since 2009.
Oh my gosh.
Since 2009. They had 8.7 million in 2009 and only had 7.87 in 2023. That tells you all you need to know right there.
And I'm pretty sure 12 million was not, it's not in the top 2 for the Auburn and Alabama game. I wouldn't imagine. If you have the time, you can look it up. But dude, I seriously just could not believe this. If I knew how to work X, I was going to be tweeting at this sun gun all afternoon. I tried looking for the mentions and his ats and everything, trying to figure it out. And I could not figure it out to save my life. And so I have no idea what other people were saying other than the one person they did show on SEC Now, which said that he made he started an enemy out of everyone. Yeah. So I seriously just cannot believe it. And you know what? The host, go back and look at that video. The host is sitting over there and she's just like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe he is saying this, because dude, this is the SEC. Everyone recognizes that Iron Bowl is the crown jewel of SEC rivalries. Yes,
well, it's the crown jewel of college football rivalries, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of fans that say the Ohio State Michigan game is the number 1, but that's complete bullshit, even though the viewership kind of, works in their favor.
Well, last year it was unprecedented, their rankings. I mean, that happens once every decade where they're both ranked that high. So
that's true.
That's what happens there. Oh man. I seriously I could not believe it. I could keep going on, and I'd end up repeating myself so much, but leave us a comment. What did you guys think? Is his comments correct? No. Did he come correct in that segment, or did Cole Kubelik's face tell it all for all states of Alabama residents?
That was a telling point for me. It was his face. His face was priceless.
Oh my gosh. It was
the cut to his face it sent me. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh geez. Oh, just absolutely great. Well, moving right along, we're gonna go ahead and talk about SEC Media Days. Hugh Freeze had the podium first, and really had a lot of great comments. Josh, do you want to highlight some of his comments first, or would you like for me to go ahead and first?
My 2 favorite comments were, first off, one of his first questions was about Percy Lewis. I love the fact that the only thing Percy Lewis was a water spigot to wash his car. That was the selling point for him. That was just, I friggin' love that. I was laughing very hard on my couch while watching. I couldn't even hear what else he was saying because it was so funny to me. And then secondly, it kind of backs up what I predicted for the coming season, is that Auburn is going to run the ball more than they are going to pass it. Because Hugh Freeze was asked point blank who their strongest position group was, and he said running backs. And so now that just tells me for sure that Auburn is definitely going to have, I think they could get very close to 2 1,000-yard rushers in 2024.
Yeah, no, and you said it, and I didn't believe it. I, pushed back on that, and I thought that they were going to try to use the passing game no matter what to try to sell to the recruits, because that's the flashy thing. But it seems as if at least on July 18th, it seems as if you're right, because Hugh Freeze, I did pick up on that, and I thought that was very interesting and very telling. He had very high praise, for everyone in the running back room.
Yes, every single player in that running back room. And, he also did say he expects better things from the receivers, but he also, stressed that we need to have patience with Auburn's receiving room, because there is a lot more young guys than there are veterans. And so the younger guys are going to get a little more playing time than most young guys are used to at Auburn. And so I expect us to have a better passing game this year than last year, but I also fully expect now for Auburn to have just an outstanding rushing attack.
Yeah, no, and we should, because again, Hugh Freeze even talked about it some more. The fact that our offensive line is so experienced, and that how that should help excel the running game and make it even better. So again, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. I think you were right. I was wrong on that. And
those are good words to hear.
It doesn't happen often. Hugh Freeze was asked about being an underdog, and about having good motivation and having a lot of success against teams that he's the underdog in, and everything, and how he excels at that. And Hugh Freeze was a little self-deprecating here, and he said, truthfully, that is probably a weakness of mine, because maybe I should plan the way I do for those when we are not the underdog. I don't know if that's accurate, but it makes me feel that way. I don't mind being the underdog, but I need to figure out how to be more consistent and the motivation for all 12 games. And I think that is, a big comment that a lot of Auburn fans had last year after the New Mexico State game. Everyone was talking about how the coaching even overlooked New Mexico State and was looking towards the Iron Bowl. And so I thought that was I thought that was very telling of him to be self-deprecating and talking about how that was a weakness, because I truly think that he's right. I think it is a weakness. I think, having that underdog mentality and having the team prepared when you're the underdog is all good and well. But again, like he said there at the end, provide that motivation so that way all 12 games they have that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, he also did end that comment by saying that he does not want to be the underdog anymore. And he was actually showing a little bit of emotion on his face when he said that. You could tell he was getting a little irritated by the fact that everyone is thinking Auburn and Hugh Freeze are the underdog. And I liked his whole composure and whole response to the underdog question with what he said, especially at the end of his comment.
Yeah, and he also talked about how there are 6 teams in the last since 2010 that have won a national title and played for a national title, and Auburn is one of them.
He's coaching at
one of them.
Yep.
And so again, he did point that out that Auburn doesn't have to be the underdog here, and that he's in the process of building something. So in his opening statements, one of the first things that he actually talked about, and something that I think every Auburn fan has, for the most part, gotten a sense of through, some interviews from players and everything like that. But he's talking about, the feel in the facilities, and how everything now just seems to be working better. And his comment, there's a great excitement in our building right now. I think our players sense that there is chemistry among our staff that's pretty special right now, that provides a confidence and energy to our players and the way they go about chasing the standards that we set for each other. I think we have upgraded our roster as well. And so he's talking about the two. What was that?
I said 110%.
Yeah.
110%.
Yeah. And I mean, you just look at, the fact that, again, you hear the things about Ron Roberts and, the contention that was fostered with him out there. And then the whole thing with Philip Montgomery, and the fact that, Payton Thorne has already even come out and talked about how unprepared he felt with Philip Montgomery, and Hugh Freeze. Hey, he wasn't shy about throwing him under the bus a couple times. Didn't throw him under as hard as he probably should have. He wasn't happy with the production. That's why I got rid of him, moved on, and got Derek Nix in there, someone that he's familiar with and somebody that he can trust. And, something else that I noticed is, one of the other questions was somebody was asking him, talking about how he spent last year on, game days and days during the week on recruiting and building the program while letting his coordinators handle the game plan and everything. And he says, where do you see spending your time this year? And Hugh Freeze, he had a really good response, and something I think a lot of Auburn fans are excited to hear, especially with how well recruiting has been up to this point. But come, the season, he's looking at 70% on, the team and preparing for the game, and 30% on recruiting and dealing with issues throughout the team and stuff like that.
That's what we want to hear.
And yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we want to hear. He's
also very vocal about not wanting to have to deal with third and long play calling. He says he wants to leave that up to his coordinators. He says he hates third and longs. He doesn't want to touch them. So it's going to, I don't know.
Except for with the defensive side of the ball, he was like, I'm going to let them handle that. He's like, I want to know what they're doing on third down, but that's about it.
Yeah. He doesn't want to touch third and longs.
No,
I agree though. I hate third and longs.
Hey, he was very good about it, the way he said it, because he was basically saying, hey, I wasn't there talking with Ron Roberts about what he should have done there on 4th and 31, but from now on, I am. That's the way I read that comment.
Yeah, I agree.
And another thing in his opening statement, he was talking about the culture council that they have set up, and these are player voted players that are on this culture council and meet with the coaching staff as well as players and really run the program that Hugh Freeze has envisioned, but he lets them manage themselves. And one of the things he said is he's had to change some. I've had to learn to listen more, that I don't have all the answers, and maybe our players are onto a few things that can help me be a better coach. If this proves correct and he continues to show his willingness to change, I would say it's probably the first time in over a decade that we've had a coach that is willing to change, because Gus Malzahn was always, I'm going to bring somebody in for play calling. But as soon as things started going south, he kind of took over again. Hugh Freeze, again, he's saying all the right things, and to me, at least, to this fan, he's saying all the right things. But what do you think, Josh?
I mean, we all felt the same way with Brian Harsin. He was saying all the right things. He was saying what we all wanted to hear, but just didn't put it on the field. He didn't say anything like this about trusting the players more and listening to the players more. And I think more coaches need to have that mentality, because no one knows better than the player you have out on the field running the plays that you're calling. I mean, all the players they study the game constantly. They're playing the game constantly, and they're growing in the game constantly. So, I mean, it's always a good thing to have your players' voices heard and taking their criticism and using that towards making your roster and your play calling and decision making better. I feel like that's such a good mentality to have. And a lot of coaches, like Gus Malzahn, he thought he knew better than everybody else and would just run the same 3 plays out of the same 4 formations and just get pounded from time to time. So I think that's just a really good mentality to have. And it's really good to hear the head football coach of our program to, come out and say that to the whole world.
Yeah, no, it really is. And man, the more we have Hugh Freeze around, the more I'm a fan so far. Again, it's only the second year, but he seems to be doing all the right things. All the right things, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Once Hugh Freeze was done on the podium and answering questions, we ended up getting we didn't get to see any video footage of the player interviews, but we had some quotes. First up was Keldrick Faulk, who once again is the youngest player that Auburn has ever taken to SEC Media Days, being a true sophomore, and just the amazing, just the amazing person that he is, to be even able to be there is absolutely fantastic.
It was good. And what Hugh Freeze is saying about Keldrick Faulk is again reiterating what I was saying and why he was chosen about being the most vocal leader on the defensive line, and that's the big reason why Hugh Freeze brought him. He says he's the most accountable player on the defensive line. He's got the best voice on the defensive line, and he's just an overall leader. And it was just good to hear everything that and read everything that Keldrick Faulk had to say about the team, his head coach, and his teammates.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. The first question that caught my eye personally was he was asked, what does it take to go from being a true freshman to a guy that plays every single game and becomes what you've become? What kind of mental fortitude does that take, and physically what's required? And his response was, mentally a lot is required. You're going out there every Saturday playing against some of the best players in college ball. You have to play with your A game. You have to practice like it's your last. Mentally, it takes a lot out of you, and physically, probably even more. To me, that says a lot of just the fact that he, after 1 year already realizes, hey, this is not something you can just turn on. This is not something that you can just show up to. This is not something you can just let your natural God-given ability come out there and be able to be dominant, unless your name is Johnny Manziel. He didn't say that. I said that.
It's true. Like, again, it's a game that these players are constantly studying and evolving in, and he just states that plain and simple is like something you have to actually work for. He says a lot of people say the SEC is like a mini NFL, and it's going to take a lot out of you mentally and physically.
Yep, exactly. And were there any other questions that kind of stuck out to you with Keldrick Faulk? I have one more, but
it's just what he said about DJ Durkin. He says that DJ is always energized. He always brings the energy. He expects the best out of us and just holds everybody accountable on their mistakes and just praises them whenever they make good plays or whenever they do something right. And that's what you need from a leader on your defensive coaching staff. You need someone that's going to take the good and the bad and let you have it when you're doing the bad and reward you when you're doing the good. So it was really nice to hear that about DJ Durkin from one of the actual players on that side of the ball.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I've been a fan of the DJ Durkin hire from the beginning, and it just continues to prove that every player is a fan of his. And so, that was definitely one that stood out to me. The next one that also stood out to me was a lot of new faces on the defensive line, some incoming transfers, some freshmen. What can you say about the rest of the group on the Auburn defensive line, and who has really stepped it up this offseason? And man, for him to get this kind of question, again, it just shows, like, you think, okay, he's a sophomore, guys. He's not gonna He's not going to freaking know this. He's not going to, know who to call out and everything like that. But he showed a lot of maturity here with this response. I would say Kieran Crawford and Jalen McLeod are two guys on the edge that are really stepping up. They are more, we're going to show you this is how it's supposed to be done type of leaders. They're example leaders. And the thing is, he talks in it. I cut it out of the quote there just because he kind of reiterates it, but they're not really vocal leaders. And when you think of leaders, it takes a mature person to realize there's multiple kinds of leaders. You don't have to be a vocal leader to be a leader. And for him to recognize, hey, yeah, these guys are being leaders in their own rights and going out there and showing, hey, this is how it's done. And another thing that I'm super excited about, Kieran Crawford is also a sophomore as well. And he's already going out there and putting in the work in comparison to Jalen McLeod, who's going to be a senior. So just
that's what you want.
Yeah.
You want all your players, especially the incoming guys that transferred in, to come out there and put everything on the field and show you what they're about. So everybody can, follow that example. Like you said, they're example leaders. And that's definitely what you want from veterans. Definitely.
Yep. And we're already proven that two of the young players on the defensive line in Keldrick Faulk and Kieran Crawford are already stepping up and being leaders among their teammates, which is, again, phenomenal. Yep.
Beautiful.
Next up, we had Eugene Asante. If you thought we were saving the best for last, you were wrong. We got him right here in the middle, Eugene Asante. Absolutely fantastic. What was the question that really stood out to you, Josh?
Just his response to being asked on not playing a whole lot in his first season in 2022. He came out and owned it, saying that his confidence was shot and just learned from every mistake he made and was doing everything he could while playing on the scout team. And it's just that stood out to me because that just really shows his leadership and his willingness to grow and learn and take everything in stride and learn from his mistakes.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. Again, it just shows, like you said, his maturity. And, one of the things that I noticed, and hopefully something that stood out to you, so hopefully I'm not taking something from you, but I don't even have this quote written down. I'm just going off of memory. He was talking about how when he was moved to the scout team with Brian Harson's coaching staff, he contacted his coach back at North Carolina and was like, hey, man, can I come be a graduate assistant? And just because this on the field stuff is not going to work for me, apparently. And dude, just absolutely devastating to hear something like that, especially with somebody that is as talented as this man. If you listen to Zach Blackerby at all this week, he was talking about how NFL scouts are high on Eugene Asante. This man does not need to be a graduate assistant to make an impact on the football team.
He needs to play on the field.
Yeah.
Right after that quote you just were talking about, he went on and thanked Coach Freeze for coming in and giving him confidence. He says, what did he say? He says, they don't know that they changed my life truly in giving me that chance. I'm forever indebted to them, and I'm going to continue to try to make them so proud in whatever I do. So Hugh Freeze coming in and giving him that small boost of confidence, it saved him from becoming a graduate assistant. And we all saw what he did in 2023, and we want more of it in 2024. We love Eugene Asante.
Yep, led the team in tackles. And, I think we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't mention that he opened his, these questions with a statement and, thanked God for everything that he did. And he thanked the coaching staff to begin with. And so this is a guy that literally has his head on right and is just literally, like you have said this whole time with talking about the coaches, talking about the players that have come to SEC Media Days. They're doing it the right way, and that's what you want to see. You couldn't ask for more. This is what you want to see. And Eugene Asante, he embodies that. And the first thing that popped out to me, the first question that popped out to me is He was asked in his opening statement. He said, you mentioned you were near the bottom of the depth chart about a year and a half ago. You've worked your way into being one of the team's leaders. What was that like? What was the process like of working your way into the starting lineup and becoming the player you were last year? Eugene Asante goes and says, it was just a process where I wanted to prove to my coaches that they can trust me, that you're going to make the right decision off the field in order to trust you on the field. I wanted to be a person that is a reliable person in terms of preparation, in terms of everything I do through my day-to-day life, and going full force on the field, being someone that was relentless in terms of his effort and the way he played the game. And boy, was he relentless. That is, if there was a word to describe Eugene Asante on and off the field, it's got to be relentless. Now, he has a phrase that describes him. He has a saying that describes him on and off the field. But if there was just one word, I think relentless nails it.
Oh, it's great. It's just so good seeing this guy just strolling around like he owns the place everywhere he goes, and able to, actually cash in on that confidence and that demeanor. It's so wonderful to see on the field. I mean, I don't think I've seen a player all over the field like that since Zacoby McClain.
And even then, I think Eugene he kind of stood out more. Zacoby McClain, he did a lot of stuff that you didn't quite realize that he was doing until he was hurt, until not on the field. And then you're like, holy crap, we missed this guy for sure. Whereas Eugene, it was just like, whoa, there goes Eugene. Whoa, there goes Eugene. Whoa, look at Eugene.
It's true.
I mean, that's just what it was.
Your face. He's definitely more in your face.
That Cal game was his coming out party. If there was any one thing that came out positive in that Cal game, it would be Eugene Asante. Now, obviously, on the offensive side, we all saw Rivaldo too. But yeah, so
the W was positive too, Cameron.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah. Another question, and this is one that pretty much everybody got questions on Cam Coleman, but Eugene was asked. Cam Coleman is a guy that people have been very excited to see. Talk to me about what he brings to this team and to this offense. This is something that I personally wasn't expecting. His comments here. I'll just go ahead and read them real quick. He's so dynamic in the way he plays the game in terms of high pointing the football. Cam Coleman is one of the last guys to always leave the facility. Now, this is after Eugene was talking about, hey, I'm putting in work. I'm watching a lot of film. And Cam Coleman is one of the last guys to always leave the facility. You don't really see that from a young guy. So I'm excited to see his progress. I know he's going to make us proud in everything he does this season. This excites me more than the fact that Cam Coleman in the NCAA 25 game is a stud and a half. This comment here
is what he is.
It excites me way more than any game I've played of Cam Coleman.
It's definitely a good question. It's definitely what you want to hear about one of the young guys coming into the season, especially since you haven't seen the product on the field other than the A-Day game where he just lit it up and excited us even more than his 5-star status. And hearing this about a true freshman being one of the last guys to leave the facility and constantly working on his craft, you can't ask for much more from a friggin' freshman. You just cannot.
Nope, you can't. And then the last question, Eugene was a little rude to the person asking the question. They said, what can you say about Let's Work and the way that's taken hold as a rallying cry, not just with you and your teammates? And Eugene goes, let's work. And then the guy was able to finish his question. And he said, but around the whole program as well. And again, man, if there's anything that really just embodies Eugene Asante, it's relentless work. It's what he does, man. Relentless work. Absolutely fantastic. I love him. Plus, look at that smile.
It's $1 million smile. Haven't seen a smile like that since Cam Newton.
The next person up is Payton Thorne. I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. He had some opportunities to really show some fight. He didn't quite tackle it as well as I would have hoped personally. Were there any questions and answers stand out to you, Josh?
It was just they all seemed like kind of softball pitches to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I was exactly wanting to see. I know that's not what you're wanting to see. He was asked how he feels as if he feels different than the quarterback he was at Michigan State, and he says he thinks he's the same quarterback. And I mean, last year shows he was not the same quarterback that was playing at Michigan State. I agree with you. I feel like there should have been some more fire out of him. I feel like he should have been a little more vocal on the criticisms he had from last year.
Mm-hmm.
He just wasn't. Nothing really stood out for me from what Payton Thorne said. Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, he said some good things about Cam Coleman. He said he said some pretty good things about Hugh Freeze's confidence in him. But I mean, nothing really stood out to me at all. It was kind of very vanilla.
I did write down 3 questions that I forced myself to let them stand out. The first one actually kind of did stand out, and you brought it and you touched on it a little bit. The question was, Coach really resonated that he has a lot of confidence in you this season. I know you also have a lot of confidence now in your game. How does that feel going into the season, knowing that you have the coach's assurance there with the new guys coming in and key pivotal guys you have? How will that benefit you this season? And he kind of gave the cookie cutter answer. It's huge, honestly, at quarterback position. Having your coach having your back is huge. To hear those things from Coach Freeze is awesome. Now I will say there were a couple of. I really wish we could have gotten video of this because there were a couple responses from him where it kind of looked like maybe there was a little bit of heat behind his words, but it's hard to get that context in text form because he also was talking about how later on. And actually here, I'll just dive right into it. The question was the schedule. They scheduled a lot of home games in the beginning. Everybody is talking about playing at Jordan-Hare. How do you match those two together, home games and how tough it is for your opponent? And his response was, he started off by talking about there's no doubt it's tough to play at our place. And before this next part of this quote, he was talking about, I was on the sidelines and you could hear it on third down. That's a shot at Philip Montgomery if I ever heard one, because he was on the sideline during third down. And so I kind of like that, but I would have liked to get his tone. Was there fire behind the words, or were the words just out there? You hear it on third down in the second quarter. It's not like they wait till the fourth quarter to get going. I know our place is hard to play. Our fans are outstanding. I mean, way to go. Every quarterback's going to say that.
Yeah, well, all the players that were asked about it said basically the same thing. Eugene Asante says it's easy playing in front of 88,000 fans because they truly care about you at Jordan-Hare. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there has been fire behind his responses about Philip Montgomery in the past. But again, I feel like the questions that were asked to Payton Thorne weren't the questions that a lot of Auburn fans wanted to be asked. And it doesn't give me any more confidence in Payton Thorne. I still think he's going to be QB1, even though Hugh Freeze says he needs to see the fire under Payton Thorne during the position battles before the season starts. But I mean, I'm still just mid on Payton Thorne. Again, I think he's going to be the starter. I think he's going to be better than last year, but I don't think he's a world breaker by any means.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Well behind that mark.
And this next question, I highlighted it because I wanted to talk about, I have some positives from his response, but I wanted to talk about how lackluster his response was and how it gave me zero confidence in him. The question was,
before you get to that, I do think that the feel I get from Payton Thorne by seeing all these video interviews and all of these responses over articles and stuff. He does seem to be a man of few words. So I don't know if that's his personality coming out of him just, not wanting to shoot himself in the foot too much or just piss people off. I do think that is part of his personality where he's just not a guy that is super vocal about any of these things. But again, that's not what you want from your quarterback. You want your quarterback to fire you up. You want your quarterback to inspire you. We all remember the legendary halftime speech that Cam Newton gave to everybody in the locker room during the Clemson game. And then we came out in the second half and won the game. There's a whole different team after halftime. You want your quarterback to be able to do that, and it does not seem that Payton Thorne can be that type of quarterback and that type of leader.
And the thing is that if you're not going to be that type of quarterback and that type of leader, that raw, vocal leader, you got to be a show me kind of leader. Yep. I don't know how Nick Marshall was behind closed doors, but on the surface, he didn't look like he said much there on the sidelines. He just
put everything on the field. Everything. Yep.
And you couldn't deny it. We haven't seen that from Payton Thorne. Maybe we saw it in the Arkansas game a little, but that's about it.
Yep.
But this question here, the last question was what have you taken from last season and focused on developing for this upcoming season? Again, his response was very lackluster. It really wasn't too great. I pieced together a lot. It was a very long answer that he kind of meandered through, and so this is kind of really broken up here. But trying to be as good mechanically and as efficient as you can in the pocket, and then accurate, just focusing on mastering our offense. But also when you play quarterback, you can't just know what everybody is doing on your side of the ball. You need to know what the defense is doing too. Okay, yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
I feel like he knows what his teammates are supposed to be doing on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, you wouldn't be a very good quarterback if you didn't. I do not think he knows how to read a defense past the defensive line.
That's fair.
He was always shocked when there was a blitzing linebacker. He was always blindsided when there was a blitzing DB. And he was always blindsided when there was a lurking safety. Always. I do not think he is a very good reader of defenses. And hopefully, that changes. Hopefully, he was working with the defensive coordinators and understanding and how to know defenses better. Because, Hugh Freeze was even asked about coaches that inspired his coaching styles. He gave Steve Spurrier as one of his most influential coaches that he studied. And then he talked about Monty Kiffin and how Monty Kiffin taught him how to read a defense and more about the defensive side of the ball. So hopefully Hugh Freeze, shared that with Payton Thorne, saying, hey, you need to go talk with our defense coordinators and ask them to teach you how to read a defense and understand what they're doing and what each formation means and where they're lined up means. Hopefully that happened. And if it did not happen, then I don't expect Payton Thorne to be the starter for Auburn football past week 2.
Amen. And to his credit, he did mention that he watched a lot of film. A lot of his own film. And so hopefully he made that connection to, hey, maybe I need to talk with somebody on the defensive side. But very well said. Couldn't say it any better. I think we both want Payton Thorne to be successful because if he's successful, Auburn's going to be successful.
Auburn's successful,
we're putting him down. We're putting him down and we're talking shit on him. But it's because we expect and we want.
I don't think we're talking shit on him. I think we're just being very critical of him.
Okay, very critical. Okay, yeah, you're right. We're not talking shit. We're being critical of him. But that's what we want. We want somebody that's going to be able to lead this team. Now, Josh, we have other topics, and we're going to have to end up doing a very short video to bring those in. But we're running up against it this time tonight, so we're just going to end it right there for now. And with that, Josh, tell everybody where they can follow us.
Follow us on TikTok at War Eagle Weekly. Follow us on X at War Eagle Weekly. Follow us on YouTube at War Eagle Weekly. Go buy NCAA Football 25. Come join a dynasty with us. Play the damn game. Auburn is very good in the game, which is very surprising. It's wonderful. I'm actually going to go jump on that right after the stream.
And on that shocker, War Eagle, Josh.
War Eagle, man.